I finally broke up with my controlling girlfriend after she spent months manipulating our entire friend group. Now she's sabotaging my social life under the guise of a healing journey and turning everyone against me one by one. My girlfriend, 17F, and I, 19M, were once the undeniable power couple of our friend group. We started dating last September, around her birthday, after only knowing each other for 3 or 4 months. We weren't perfect by any means, but we generally kept arguments to a minimum, worked through them, and moved on, usually by the next day. We'd go on dates 2 or 3 times a week, and I always covered the cost. She doesn't have a job, and the drive to her house is 45 minutes, but I didn't mind. We always had a lot of fun, and I felt she was worth it. Also, her parents are divorced, and she visits her dad out of state every August. The other key person in my story is my best friend, whom I'll call Jay. Jay and I have been inseparable since we were kids. I've known her for almost a decade. She's actually the one who introduced me to my girlfriend in the first place. Jay and my girlfriend have also been close friends for a very long time. Now for the story. A few months ago, I heard there was some tension between Jay and my girlfriend, making their friendship difficult. When I heard, I made it a point to stay out of it as much as possible, feeling it didn't directly concern me. Of course, being the best friend and the boyfriend, I would often hear both of them rant about the other person and would try to act as a mediator. At the time, I had no idea how bad things had truly become between them. I just thought they needed to get things off their chest and vent, which I was fine with. The situation came to a head one night after I got home from work around 2 a.m., utterly exhausted. My girlfriend wanted to watch a movie. We usually did this almost every night, watching simultaneously over the phone as a kind of movie date. Since she lives 40 minutes away, a lot of irrelevant things happened here, and I don't want to bore you, but basically, at some point, I made a harmless joke about humans the size of dinosaurs. She completely overreacted, started crying, and shouted at me. Why would you say something like that? I was just trying to calm her down when she suddenly called me a narcissist who only uses people for personal gain, demanded we take a break, and told me not to even bother coming over to her house on Saturday. At this point, it was 5 a.m., and it was the first time I'd cried myself to sleep since middle school. Naturally, since we had never had a fight that severe before, I reached out to Jay to see if she wanted to hang out. I just wanted to get some things off my chest and vent about what I might have done wrong. For whatever reason, after calling for a break, my girlfriend proceeded to call and text me several times a day, saying she was sorry and that she didn't mean what she said. I didn't answer any of her messages at all. A few days after our fight, Jay and I finally got a chance to hang out. We went to a local restaurant, and I just broke down, almost in tears, about how much I messed up and that I had ruined our relationship. At that point, Jay revealed that she, too, had experienced some difficult moments, showing me texts and screenshots of my girlfriend completely overreacting and lashing out at her for minor things. Jay mentioned that my girlfriend always claimed to be jealous of me because she didn't have many friends, yet this is how she treated the friends she did have. We spent some time just talking about my girlfriend and how she could be immature at times, but in the end, Jay apologized for many of the things she had said, stating, "I know she's your girlfriend and you care about her, so I'm sorry if the things I said were rude, but I just thought you should know." Keep in mind that my girlfriend was still calling and texting for a large part of this conversation. Having vented my emotions, I finally felt brave enough to answer the phone, only 4 days into this week-long break. It was mostly just my girlfriend, apologizing for the things she had said and affirming her love for me. I said, "It's fine, but please just be more careful with what you say when you get angry. You really hurt my feelings." And she promised to do better. The very next day, she told me about how she had to give some friends a ride around town, but felt they were just using her for her car. I made a joke about how she should sign up for Uber so she would at least get paid for it, to which she responded by calling me an idiot and hanging up the phone. She apologized a few hours later, and I couldn't find it in me not to forgive her. About a week or so after the big fight, my girlfriend found out that Jay and I had hung out during the break, and she went ballistic, shouting and crying at me. All the while, I just patiently waited for her to finish so I could tell my side of the story. She apparently didn't hear or care for what I had to say and made me apologize for going to Jay and to promise to never talk to or see her again. Thinking that the best way to calm her down would be to agree, I apologized. She then said, "Well, it's about time," adding that she felt a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. While that was happening, I was still trying to process exactly what was going on, basically in a state of shock. She asked me how I was feeling, and I just absently said, "I'm glad you're happy, hon. That's what I always wanted," and went to sleep shortly after. Naturally, I consulted friends and family over the whole ordeal for advice, and they consistently said something along the lines of, "She's being way too controlling and not letting you have your own life. She can't and shouldn't have such an iron grip on you." So I continued my life as normal. Jay and I didn't talk much to begin with, and we only rarely hung out before any of this, but I still had her on social media. My girlfriend went through my Snapchat and Instagram messages and got mad when she saw Jay and I were talking about movies and other casual things. She demanded to know why I still had her on my social media and proceeded to shout and cry, starting yet another fight almost verbatim to the previous one. These kinds of fights, as I call them, occurred several times over the course of the next few weeks, almost to the point where I could predict them hours beforehand. They usually included her threatening to break up with me at least once. It all escalated on the 4th of July. My girlfriend gets along very well with my parents, and my folks love her, despite some language barriers with my mom not speaking much English. I had invited her over to my house for the grill lunch my dad was making, and things seemed to be going well. Quick side note, I'm Hispanic, and my girlfriend is blonde with blue eyes. We eat a lot of carne asada and Mexican burgers, and my dad plays Spanish songs about people who move to the US and find it weird and wacky compared to Mexico. Think a Bo Burnham comedy song. At some point, my girlfriend excused herself to the bathroom. A long time passed before she didn't come back, and I went inside to check on her. I found her sitting on my bedroom floor in tears. I rushed over to comfort her and asked what was wrong. She said that she felt isolated from my family because the only people she could comfortably talk to were me and my older sister, even though my dad makes an effort to converse with her through his accent. Moreover, she felt offended by the music my dad was playing and believed it was making fun of America. I finally managed to calm her down when she asked if she could check my Snapchat messages while she was at her dad's house. I asked why, and she said, "I just feel like if Jay was here instead of me, then your party would go so much better. I'm getting tired of constantly having these fights." So I pulled back and said I should have known that's what this is about, to which she exploded into tears, and we had yet another fight. I finally managed to calm her down and convince her to watch a movie with me and my sister. My family is big on music, and we were all excited to see Hamilton on Disney+. Eventually, she got bored about halfway through the show and suggested we go get fireworks. I made a weak attempt at trying to continue watching the show and then caved. It was about 9 p.m., so we went to the local Walmart, only to find that their firework tent was closed. This made her unreasonably angry, and I could tell that we were about to have another fight. I told her that we could check out a local dollar store and maybe get some sparklers. On the way there, she tried to start a fight yet again, but I was just focusing on getting the sparklers to keep her happy. When we got to the dollar store, things were tense between us, only to find that this place was also closed. And this set her off. She started talking about how I never do anything for her, and over the past few weeks, she didn't know if I was happy or not. I said, "Why wouldn't I be happy?" And she said, "Because you're stressed out about this thing between me and Jay." And I responded with, "Of course. Why didn't I see it before? I'm so stupid to think it wasn't about her." I'll spare you the details, but it eventually led to my girlfriend straight up calling Jay in the middle of the fight and asking her if I'm happy. Jay, who was also busy celebrating July 4th, responded with, "I haven't talked to him in a while." My girlfriend then proceeded to hurl a string of insults at Jay, ending with, "She isn't allowed to talk to you or text you or hang out with you at all." At which point, I snatched the phone out of her hands, hung up, and sternly said, "That's it. You're done. I'm taking you home." Finally, we're nearing the present day. A few days ago, I had gotten home from work late one night and called my girlfriend, as I've always done since we started dating. We watched a movie together, and I'm just about to fall asleep when she starts talking about Jay. I sigh and answer her questions as calmly as I can until she starts getting upset about something. This escalates into, say it with me now, another fight. This one goes exactly as can be expected, but things are different. The tone of the fight was more depressing, like we've moved on from anger to sadness. I'm starting to get upset that she seems to have forgotten literally everything that happened the previous week, and I finally snap. "I think it's best if we have a short break." My girlfriend, almost like she's taunting me, asks, "Oh, you want to break up with me? Is that what you want?" I'm firm in clarifying that I'm not breaking up with her. I just need a short break. She says that she doesn't want a break and that she doesn't think it'll help either of us. I give up on that idea and tell her that it's late and that I have to get up early the next day. She tries to keep me on the line, but I hang up before she can get another word in. That was this Monday, a few days ago. I called her the next day and told her one more time that I want the break. She says that she doesn't want a break, and I remind her that I didn't want the last break either, but she went through with that. It should be noted that after the first big fight way back in the second paragraph, she came up with guidelines on how we should handle issues between us. The rule she made up for breaks was that even if we're on break, We should still have at least one phone call or text a day. Does she not understand how a break works? Also, it's worth pointing out that she said if we ever break up, not to say it's because she was controlling or manipulative. The rules for fights are that neither of us are allowed to shout or curse. So when I called for a break, she asked me what I wanted her to do through the break in terms of calling. I told her, you can call or text if you want. I can't guarantee. I'll answer though. I told her I love her and hung up the phone. Mind you, I found it very difficult to even talk to anyone about this because me venting about the relationship is what got us into this mess to begin with. But the people I did talk to about it all told me that she was very toxic for me, and even my sister's friends, total strangers, were telling me to dump that crazy B********H. I feel things have gotten just a smidge more complicated since she found out her dad literally is COVID, and I can't help but feel bad for calling a break while her dad is sick. But I honestly feel like it was the right thing to do. I'm tired of being a pushover, but I'm unsure if I'm able to go through with it again. Sorry for the long read. There's no way I could feasibly TLDR this. Sorry. Also, I'm leaving out other things she has done, like when she wanted me to completely change my plan to move out of my parents' house just so that she would be able to live with me, even though she has no job and procrastinates her school work for months at a time. To my knowledge, she hasn't even started looking for one. Keep in mind, she's 17 and hasn't even started senior year yet. Or, on July 3rd, I told her I had to ask my mom if she could come over for July 4th, and if she can't come over on Saturday, then we could do a little date on Sunday instead, to which she started crying about how I was looking for excuses to not see her. Small, petty stuff like that. Update 1. Hey everyone, I didn't expect my last post to get so much attention, and honestly, I thought the story had run its course. But no, real life is a gift that keeps on giving, and in my case, that means new drama with my girlfriend, who, for the sake of this update, I'll just call S, and the whole J situation. So after my last post, I committed to this break, even though S spent the next few days trying to redefine what a break even means. She started texting me random memes, then sentimental goodnights, and then links to TikToks about couples surviving rough patches. I ignored most of it. I caved and replied to a couple lighthearted ones, but otherwise kept my distance. At this point, I just needed space. Still, the guilt gnawed at me. S kept reminding me about her dad having COVID and how the timing couldn't be worse. I was feeling like a terrible person for not being more present. Then, about 3 days into this, J, who I hadn't really talked to except for a quick check-in since the last blow-up, messaged me something weird. Call me when you can. It's about S. My stomach dropped. So I called. J sounded tired, like emotionally hungover, if that's possible. She told me S had added her to a group chat that included 3 mutual friends, one of whom I barely know, and started unloading on all of them, trying to get them to hear her side about the split and convincing them that I was emotionally cheating with J. The whole group chat blew up. Our friend Sam called S out pretty bluntly, asking why she always weaponized her feelings and trauma. S took offense and rage quit the chat, but not before threatening to block everyone. I was stunned. My plan was literally just to take a breather from the arguments. I hadn't even officially broken up with her, and she's tossing nukes left and right, recruiting allies, painting me as a villain. After that, things spiraled. I got a barrage of texts from mutuals, half of which were genuinely checking in to see if I'm okay, and the other half sounding suspiciously like they'd been convinced I'm the devil. One girl, Kelly, even DM'd me saying, I thought you were different. Dude, Kelly and I have barely ever spoken. Feeling seriously burned out, I spent 2 days doing nothing but working, sleeping, and reading Reddit updates where people say, just break up already. But I was genuinely worried about S, especially after all the self-harm stuff. So I planned to call her after a couple quiet days and just talk, set the record straight at least on the break/breakup question. S, however, had other plans. That Friday, I woke up to about 70 notifications. Someone had tagged me in an Instagram story S had posted, a multi-slide Instagram memoir/manifesto, complete with dramatic black and white selfies and quotes from Lana Del Rey about lost love and betrayal. No names used, but enough people knew she was talking about me and Jay. She hinted at being used as a therapist, being a second choice, and watching people pick their real love and never stand up for you. She sprinkled some choice words about fake friends, clearly at Jay, and ended by saying she was done being walked on. Cue 30 DMs from people, a few classmates, Jay, and S herself. S's message was just a single line. What's left, honestly? I snapped. I called her, and when she answered, sounding weirdly upbeat, I told her flat out we needed to talk immediately, and I wasn't comfortable with our issues being aired on social media for everyone to dissect. She tried to claim it was just her being artistic and coping, but I told her it was childish and hurtful, not just to me, but to our whole group. Then she started crying, saying she just had no one, that she understood if I wanted to break up, but she was lost and her dad might have to go to the hospital for COVID. At this point, I was angry, sad, and still didn't want to abandon her when things were rough at home. My gut said to end it, but I told her I'd come see her that afternoon and we could talk. I probably shouldn't have gone. When I got there, her little brother let me in. Her dad was quarantining in his room upstairs. Her mom was out. S was in her room, blasting Phoebe Bridgers and cleaning compulsively. I sat down. She gave me this haunted look and said, "I want to try to fix this, but I'm scared you don't want to." I told her honestly I cared about her, but she'd crossed some major lines. She started pacing, crying, arguing that she didn't know what else to do as she couldn't control things. I basically told her she needed to get therapy and asked if she was still seeing the psychiatrist she'd talked to after the hospital. She said, "No, they told me I was fine," which didn't seem right. Then suddenly, her phone buzzes, a text message from Jay. S reads it out loud. "I hope you get real help for your mental health." S loses it, calling Jay vindictive, blaming her for turning everyone against her, and then says if Jay can't leave her alone, she'll send her own screenshots so everyone sees what Jay really did. At this point, I realize S kept old messages, entire years worth of Jay venting about mutual friends, some of it embarrassing, some just petty, all out of context. She said something along the lines of, "I knew it. You're picking her over me." And for the first time in many years, I shouted, "Girlfriend, you can't keep thinking that the entire world is always plotting to destroy you. I don't know where you got the idea that Jay and I are plotting to attack you, but that's just not true. Now, you should know that this was extremely out of character for me. As you can probably tell, my girlfriend is the more emotional and romantic one in the relationship, while I try to be more level-headed and grounded." She then said I couldn't take her home because she left her purse at my house, so I was forced to go back to my house. We sat in the driveway and continued talking for a bit. I finally told her that I felt like I was being torn apart by the two of them, and that I felt like I got caught in the middle of a war zone that I never wanted to be a part of, and that I hated the fact that I got dragged into this. At this point, Jay called back and apologized to my girlfriend for the things she said about her to me. My girlfriend then said, "Look, we both made our mistakes, but we need to apologize to OP," and they both apologized to me. I was just trying to hold back my confusion because my girlfriend was the only one who actually forced me to talk about what was going on with them in the form of fights. My girlfriend is the one who made my part bigger in this than it should have been. My girlfriend and Jay said that they'll talk amongst themselves and work something out between them, and that they promised to not get me involved anymore. I said, "Fine, I don't care. Do whatever you think is right," and Jay hung up. My girlfriend said she was going to go in for her purse and went into my house while I waited in the car. I noticed she was taking a bit longer than made sense, but wrote it off as maybe she went to the bathroom or something. When I saw that her purse was literally in the back seat, I panicked and rushed inside to find her talking to my parents. She had been telling them an abridged version of previous events between me, her, and Jay, obviously painting Jay out to be the villain, and apologized to them and me. We finally headed back to her house, and the whole drive there we talked things out and ended things on a good note. It was about 2 a.m. I thought that it was finally the end of it, and I was just glad it was over. I got home from her house and talked to Jay for a bit. She asked me for my side of the story and asked if I felt like she was using me. No, not really. When you talked about my girlfriend, it was obvious that it was just something you needed to get off your chest and out of your mind. But the fights my girlfriend and I had, it was almost like it was her goal to get me to hate you and never talk to you again. She's the one who wanted to get an edge over you. She's the one who made it a war zone. I went to sleep a few minutes later and woke up Sunday the next morning to dozens of texts from my girlfriend talking about how she had started self-harming again and how she felt like a terrible human being. I asked her what was going on, but she simply refused to tell me, and I spent the entire Sunday trying to talk to her and get her to put the box cutter down, to no avail. It wasn't until Sunday night that I got a text from my girlfriend's mom, saying my girlfriend had lost a lot of blood from the cuts and would have to spend a few days in a psychiatric hospital. It wasn't until a few days later that I learned that while Jay and my girlfriend were talking after I left her house on July 4th, Jay had called out my girlfriend on every time she had been controlling or manipulative, and that's why she no longer wanted to be friends. My girlfriend eventually got out of the psych ward, and we went out the next day. She was telling me about her time there and showing me the notebooks and papers they made her do while she was there. Imagine that scene from Monsters Incorporated when Boo is showing Sully her toys. I noticed the sight of all this stuff was reminding her of the fact that she went to a psych ward and was starting to stress her out, So I suggested we go out for a drive in fresh air. So we did, and eventually I dropped her off at her house later that day, and I went home, narrowly avoiding another fight in the process. Also, it should be noted that she blames Jay for her going to the psych clinic. Cut to a few days after that. She learned that her dog was very sick and asked me to come over to her house for a bit for company. I had worked over 50 hours the previous week and just wanted to spend my one day off at my sister's house watching Criminal Minds and eating pizza and stuff. I told her, yes, of course I'll come over, but it might be a bit later because I'm going to my sister's house. I'll be there around 5:30 or 6 o'clock. So I went to my sister's house, and we were having a grand time, but eventually I lost track of time. At exactly 5:30, my girlfriend called me to ask if I'm on the way. I immediately started apologizing and saying that I'm still at my sister's house, but I'll leave right now. It's a 45-minute drive to her house, but she says, no, it's okay, Han, you can stay. I'll just have to keep myself happy since my time doesn't matter to anyone else, and other passive-aggressive stuff to guilt me into going. My sister is understanding and lets me out. The entire drive to her house was basically message after message about how she doesn't want to feel like she's forcing me to come over, and she sent a whole paragraph to my sister apologizing for me leaving. My sister never really liked that. My girlfriend always tries so hard to get my family to like her and just says it's fine. I got to my girlfriend's house, and she was as happy as could be to see me. We proceeded to do normal date stuff, go out to eat, go to a park and relax, and stuff. She noticed I'm a bit more quiet than usual because I'm upset she manipulated me to her house, but I just say that I have a stomach ache, which wasn't entirely false. On our way back to her house, she insisted on putting the pictures on my Instagram. For the record, I never post much on Instagram simply because I don't see the reason for it. This has led to some fights about how she gets mad because I don't show her off on my social media, which I rarely use to begin with. I say sure thing, Han, just send them to me and I'll post them later. But she's insistent on posting them herself. She forces me to give her the password to my phone, which I had to do to stop her from going through my phone or taking pictures of me while I'm sleeping and posting them. That has happened a few times despite me asking her not to. And she posts them. I also noticed that she herself was unfollowing Jay on every social media she could find on my phone, again without telling me. Luckily, I caught her and asked why she's doing that. She says, well, I don't see any reason why you should even have her. And continues to look through my socials and messages. I knew nothing I said could improve things, so I was just waiting for her to finish until she says, you should also unfollow all of Jay's friends too. Why? They had nothing to do with what happened. Well, it's obvious that Jay told them and turned them against me, so there's no reason you should still have them. What follows would probably be the most intense fight we've ever had. I'll spare the details, but it lasted for about 2 hours. I had to pee for a large portion of it, and it even got to the point where I had a mental breakdown for the first time in 6 years. I mentioned how I was tired of these stupid Jay fights, and I was hoping July 4th would be the end of it, but it wasn't. I had hoped the hospital would be some sort of reality check for us, and that things would improve, but here we are arguing about the same exact thing time and time again, and it's just tiring. And I could feel myself getting more and more anxious and stressed out with every fight. No matter what I did everything I could to move on from what happened with Jay. I went to work, and my girlfriend and I went on dates, and the only time Jay was mentioned was when my girlfriend started another fight. I was tired and sick of it. For all the talk she does about how she doesn't hate people or hold grudges or let small things get to her, it's pretty obvious that it does still bother her because she's the only one still angry about the whole deal. Both Jay and I have moved on already. She says, obviously I've done a lot of harm to you. I'm sorry, Han. It's just that ever since I was in the hospital because of Jay, I just can't think straight anymore. I know I've done you wrong, but I promise you I'll be better from now on. I hate the thought that you feel this way because of me. There's a lot more back and forth after this, but I can't remember. I then finally go home and go to sleep. 4. The next few days, things finally seem to be heading back to normal, and it's looking good. I begged her, please, do not start some social media war. If you care about me, don't do it. For a long moment, she's quiet. Then she asked, do you think I'm crazy? And for the first time ever, I said, no, but I think you're deeply unhappy. And if you want to get better, you have to stop hurting everyone around you. She shut down, turned away from me, and said, maybe you should just leave. So I did. A couple hours later, she texted me an actual apology, barely 3 lines, but it was the most real message she'd sent in months. She said I was right. She was tired, didn't know why she did what she did, and that she would lay off Jay and everyone else. Meanwhile, the mess rippled through our group. I tried to keep my head down, moved my story to single on Facebook, which I almost never use. Took down the Instagram stories. She unfriended nearly everyone except her cousin and one longtime friend. For the first time in months, I actually felt relief. I guess I'd been holding my breath for so long I didn't realize it until everything stopped for a second. Jay and I went for coffee and talked, not about S for most of it, but about old movies, college plans, dumb stuff that used to be easy. She told me she felt bad for being so harsh with S, but that she couldn't do the drama anymore. I told her I was glad she stepped away. It should have ended there, but crackling under the surface, S still had one card left to play. Last night, no kidding, my mom gets a phone call from S's mom. I walk out to find my mom on the porch looking both worried and a little annoyed. Apparently, S's mom wanted her to know that S wasn't handling the breakup well and was asking if she could still come visit sometimes because S just needs closure and still loves me. My mom, ever patient, told her kindly but firmly that maybe some distance was good and that S was always welcome at our house once things settled. I was mortified and grateful both. So yeah, S and I are officially, finally done. Since then, S's Instagram has shifted to healing journey, content, quotes, sunset pictures, the usual. She hasn't tried to restart anything beyond one "thank you for everything" text. Jay and a few others are quietly reconnecting. Everyone seems low-key exhausted, but the drama is dying down. Looking back, I think S and I got addicted to being a power couple, but never learned how to be honest with ourselves. All the social media, the promises, the mutual trauma dumping, it became this endless cycle of guilt, obligation, and drama we couldn't see our way out of. So for now, I'm just hanging out with my friends, picking up extra shifts at work, and doing the stuff I used to love before all this. I'm not going to say things are wrapped up perfectly. There are still lingering scars, people taking sides, awkward silences when I run into S's old crew at Target. But I feel like finally things are inching toward normal. If there's anything wild to add, maybe this. This whole situation somehow made my usually reserved older sister my new best friend. She even took me to a concert last weekend, and I realized I'd spent months focused on drama while totally missing out on people who'd had my back all along. Jay is good too. Maybe even better now that the wars are over. I wish S the best, truly, but I think we both needed this crash to hit the reset button on our lives. And if you're ever the mediator in someone's drama, don't be afraid to walk away.